There's a specific kind of person who can't just think about something. You have to run it through your mind like a full investigation. You replay a conversation while brushing your teeth. You recheck a decision while you're driving. You predict 3 different outcomes before you even hit send.
And from the outside, it can look like you're anxious, or indecisive, or too much. But from the inside, it doesn't feel like drama. It feels like responsibility, like your brain is trying to make sure nothing goes wrong. Here's the part most people miss. Overthinking usually isn't your mind attacking you, it's your mind protecting you, even when you're exhausted. And if you've ever been told you're too sensitive or too much, this might be the first time someone explains why that could actually be evidence of something your brain learned to do really, really well. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand what your brain is still trying to prevent and why silence can feel unsafe. If you overthink everything, you probably recognize this rhythm. You might find yourself rewriting a text message 5 times, not because you're trying to impress someone, but because you're trying to avoid being misunderstood. You might walk out of a social moment and immediately start scanning it like security footage. Did I talk too much? Was that joke weird? Did their tone change? And it's not only social stuff. You don't just prepare for the meeting, you prepare for the moment someone's face changes, for the moment you realize you said the wrong thing or didn't say enough. And if you're more of a people pleaser, this can get even quieter and more constant. You might find yourself apologizing before you've even done anything wrong, just to make absolutely sure no one is upset. You might say yes when you mean no, because the discomfort of disappointing someone feels heavier than the discomfort of betraying yourself. And then there's the part nobody sees, the body part. Sometimes you feel it before you even know what you're thinking about. A tightness in your chest, a weight behind your eyes, a restlessness that doesn't have a name yet. You finally get a quiet night, and your thoughts show up like they've been waiting in the hallway. But here's what nobody tells you about people who do this. It isn't just thinking a lot. It's a specific kind of inner job your brain believes you were hired to do. And this is where it gets heavy, quietly heavy.
Because overthinking doesn't just take your time, it takes your rest. You might look calm to other people, even high functioning. You might be the one who shows up, who performs, who gets things done. And that's part of what makes it so isolating. Because if you're doing fine on the outside, who would believe the war that's happening on the inside?
You can be lying in bed, exhausted, and still feel like something in you is standing at the door, listening, always checking. Is everything okay? Did I miss something? What's the risk here? It's like having a security guard inside your head who never clocks out, not because they're paranoid, but because once, a long time ago, they saved you from something you didn't see coming, and now they believe their job is never finished.
And there's a moment a lot of overthinkers recognize, but almost never say out loud. You finally sit down, after work, after school, after life, and instead of resting, your mind starts rehearsing tomorrow. Not because you love planning, because rest feels like dropping your guard, and your body doesn't fully trust what happens when the guard drops. And the loneliest part is that it's hard to explain without sounding dramatic. It's not one big crisis. It's 1,000 tiny mental returns to the same place. You don't crave certainty, you crave relief. So why do you keep doing this? Why can't you just stop? Just for a second. No fixing, no forcing. Notice how even that question can feel like pressure, like your brain is failing at something it was never trained to put down. Somewhere along the way, you learned that being caught off guard didn't feel safe. Maybe your home was unpredictable, not always loud or visibly chaotic, just emotionally inconsistent. The rules could change depending on someone's mood. A normal day could turn tense without warning. So your younger self adapted. You started watching faces, listening for tone, learning the timing of people, trying to predict the weather in the room before it hit you.
And without realizing it, you accepted a job, a full-time, unpaid position, Chief Prevention Officer of your own life. Your job description? Make sure nothing bad happens, ever, to anyone. And this is one of the simplest truths that explains so much without turning you into a diagnosis. When a kid grows up around unpredictability, the brain can learn a rule that feels like common sense. Uncertainty equals threat. So it starts chasing certainty through checking, rehearsing, scanning, and rerunning the past.
That's also why silence can feel unsafe, because silence removes distractions, and suddenly your brain hears the old question it learned to fear: what am I missing? Your brain doesn't delete strategies that once kept you emotionally alive. It archives them. It keeps them running in the background, just in case. And that's not a design flaw. That's love. Misguided, maybe. Exhausting, definitely. But love. But here's what I need you to understand, slowly, clearly. This isn't a flaw. It was a solution. Your brain wasn't broken. It was loyal. Overthinking is often what happens when your mind believes, if I can think far enough ahead, I can keep us safe. Safe from rejection, safe from conflict, safe from regret, safe from being blindsided. So when people call you too much, they're usually only seeing the output. They're not seeing the intention. And the intention is protection. If you've carried shame about this, it makes sense. Shame grows in places where nobody explains the logic of your survival. But here's your permission slip if you need one. You are allowed to be someone whose brain works hard. You are allowed to notice things other people miss. You are allowed to take your time. That isn't weakness. It's what a mind does when it once had to work overtime to keep you safe. And this is why you can't just stop. Because to your nervous system, stopping can feel like leaving your post. Not because you're broken, because you're loyal. So now that you understand where it comes from, the real question becomes, how do you tell when protection mode has quietly taken the wheel? So, how do you recognize the moment it's happening? Overthinking has a signature feeling. It often shows up as urgency, like something needs to be solved right now, even if it's midnight. And sometimes it hides behind productivity. Planning can look responsible. Research can look smart. Being thorough can look admirable. Here's a simple framework that can help you tell what mode you're in without judging yourself. Productive reflection asks, what can I do? What did I learn? What's the next step? It tends to move forward, even slowly. Protective overthinking asks, what if I'm wrong? What if they're mad? What if I missed something? And it asks it on repeat. The first one feels like walking. The second one feels like pacing. You might also notice this pattern in someone you love, the friend who over-explains, who apologizes too much, who seems fine but always needs a little extra reassurance. That's not neediness. That's a nervous system that learned to double-check everything. And once you can name it, you can stop treating it like a personal flaw and start seeing it for what it is, a protection strategy. This isn't about fixing yourself overnight, and you don't have to become someone who doesn't overthink. That person doesn't really exist, and if they did, they'd probably be missing something important. The shift isn't about stopping the thoughts. It's about changing your relationship with them. Sometimes it starts when you stop asking, why won't my brain shut up? And you gently notice, what is my mind trying to protect me from right now? That one question changes the feeling in the room. Because suddenly you're not fighting yourself, you're listening to yourself. And sometimes that's all the guard needed, to be seen, to be understood. Like a guard realizing someone else is finally on shift with them. So here's a real question for you, one that isn't yes or no. When you overthink the most, what does your mind believe is at stake? Is it your image, your relationships, your future, your safety, or something older than that?
If you want a prompt for the comments, try finishing this sentence. My mind overthinks because it believes if I don't, blank will happen. Whatever your answer is, it makes sense. There's a reason your mind learned to protect you this hard. And understanding that reason doesn't mean you have to keep carrying the weight forever. It just means you finally know why you've been carrying it. And if this resonated with you, you might also recognize yourself in a closely connected pattern. People who had to grow up too fast, how childhood shaped their adult mind. Because a lot of overthinkers weren't just deep thinkers, they were early observers, early stabilizers, early adults. That video is waiting for you next.